every single country having the euro and a new foreign policy without veto powers, the completion of European army, and they, I think, are his real priorities. But my real reason for wanting to go to meet him is quite simple. It is that there have been an absolute never-ending procession, it seems to me, of Remainers going into the office. Nicola Sturgeon, Sir Nicholas Clegg, we've seen Lord Adonis, Ken Clarke, Blair, of course, has been over there meeting Mr Juncker. All of this going on. A Labour Party, of course, led by Jeremy Corbyn, which has very much changed its tune from the manifesto it ran on in June. And if you take all of that and then think about the government and what they've been talking about with Mr Barnier, I genuinely don't think that Mr Barnier has heard the views of the 17.4 million people who stood up against the establishment, not just the British one, but the global establishment, and voted to leave the European Union. So I do want to go and represent that view. You know, we didn't vote for a transition period. We didn't vote to go on effectively paying the membership fee for an extra couple of years. But there are some pretty big issues that we did vote on. So I just wonder whether Mr Barnier really understands all of this. And I shall also be I will too talk about trade and some of my thoughts on that. But the big picture stuff, why we voted to leave, and what the key issues were that motivated voters to stand up as they did on June the 23rd, 2016. So, as you may know, using the hashtag AskBarnier on Twitter, you can send through your questions. I've selected a few from the thousands that have come in over the course of the last couple of days, and that Twitter account is going to be open. You can go to @Nigel_Farage or @LBC, and we will keep that open until 11 o'clock this morning. And yes, I will use some of your questions directly to Mr Barnier and tell you what his answers were, because that seems to me to be right and proper, because I don't think the 17.4 million are being properly represented. So to join in this conversation this morning, what should I ask Barnier? Please call me on 0345 6060 973. Make sure the questions are relatively clean. Maybe you think immigration is one of the key issues, in which case you can text me on 84850, or maybe you think I shouldn't be going at all, and one or two have said that, in which case, using the hashtag Farage and LBC, you can tweet @LBC. And then later on, after 11 o'clock, we're going to have a look at Theresa May's reshuffle, or perhaps we should call it her diversity reshuffle. The idea that the Tory party does not reflect modern Britain. And I'm going to be asking you then to debate with me, what do you want to see in that reshuffle tomorrow? What kind of people should represent us at ministerial and cabinet level in this country? Well, the most fundamental question, I think, to go to Mr Barnier with tomorrow morning. And it's interesting that Paul William-Smith has tweeted in, ask Mr Barnier if he understands why the majority of the British people voted to leave the European Union. And I think that's absolutely the right question. You see, I think the elites, both in this country and indeed the elites over in America, view Brexit, they view Trump as a short-term outburst of anger, motivated by lies or, of course, by huge Russian interference. They simply can't accept the results of 2016. And of course, why did we vote? Why did we vote to leave? Well, there are lots of reasons, but there was one reason that motivated people who'd never voted in their lives to go to the polling booths on that day. And yes, it was the question of open-door immigration. It was the fact that, particularly since the former communist countries had joined, the numbers of people coming into this country every year had reached unacceptable levels. And they're still running, in my opinion, at unacceptable levels. You ask yourself why there is a National Health Service crisis this winter, and yeah, sure, absolutely, within management, there are many things that we could do better within the NHS, but basically what we have is a population crisis. The British population is rising by about 500,000 people every single year, and 3/4 of that is directly attributable to government immigration policies. So that's Paul William-Smith. I will be asking that question. I want to know whether he understands that actually this is at the heart of it. And I will endeavour to find out whether the British government has even raised this issue. Because all I ever hear from Theresa May, all I ever get from David Davis or anybody is timetabling, trade talks, but nobody has actually talked from the British government about controlling the numbers coming into Britain. Keith is on the phone from Stoke Newington. Good morning, Keith. What shall I ask Barnier?
Yes, good morning, Nigel. I think the question you have to put to those people over there, those dictators, is that...
So I take it you're a Leave voter, Keith.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But I think that the question you have to put it, referring to this recent government defeat by 309 to a lower amount, is that giving the government power, the facility to withdraw if they decide that the settlement bill is not right. Gives them the facility to override Brexit at some point, and several MPs have said that, which I think you should say to the Europeans, that is a constitutional violation and illegal, because what the government has now done is they've taken the power away from the 17 million completely, which makes the government, this government, a dictator, overriding the referendum, which is illegal, and those Europeans are going to use to their advantage. And I think there should be a legal, the court should be making an order to say that withdrawal bill is illegal and it has to be rescinded.
Well, Keith, you haven't got a cat's chance in hell of that happening. And if you wanted to bring a constitutional challenge against the government or even take them to judicial review, I reckon you'd probably be wasting your money. But the one point I will make to him about our position is that unless they're prepared, and remember, Keith, we're moving on to phase 2 now. Phase 1 was their insistence that we coughed up a huge sum of money. We have. Their insistence that the European Court of Justice would continue to have say over EU citizens living in this country, and we've accepted that. So we've kind of met all of the terms they asked for. Now what we're moving on to is, can we have a simple free trade agreement that doesn't involve the freedom of movement of people, and that doesn't involve all of our laws in perpetuity having to be parallel to theirs? And I think, Keith, the argument I'm going to put to Mr. Barnier is he can listen if he wants to Lord Adonis and Tony Blair and Sir Nick Clegg, if he wants to do that. But actually, what I'm beginning to hear are a lot of people in business saying we cannot afford to spend years and years and years of doing this if they're not prepared to be reasonable on services, and particularly financial services. Then maybe the time has come for us to simply walk away. And my argument, Keith, would be that if we get to that, it's not the UK that'll be hurt disproportionately by this. It's actually the rest of Europe that will be. So I'll be saying to him that it does actually make sense when we talk about trade for them to be reasonable with us.
I totally agree with everything you say. 100%, Nigel. I really do. And it's got to be made very forcibly that they're the ones that are going to be hurt, not us.
Yes.
Because, if you look back in history, we've always beaten them internationally on trade, and they're terrified of us, and that's why they're trying to control us.
I'm also curious, Keith, who is he representing? Is he representing the member states of Europe, the companies in Europe, the workers in Europe, or is he representing those glass and steel structures and the European Union itself in Brussels? And I suspect it's the latter. But you know what, Keith? I'll report back tomorrow, and I thank you for your call. Charles is calling from Birmingham. What should I ask him, Charles?
Well, my question is this. The EU says they owe England £34 billion, and they will start paying it back to us in 2054 in payments.
This is
why cannot be took off our exit bill so we only owe 6 billion? And why have we got to wait till 2054? By then, the EU might not exist.
Well, well, that's certainly true, in my view anyway. Well, either it won't exist or it will be a full United States of Europe. If that was there's no halfway house going ahead. Mm-hmm. Charles, they owe us nearly 9 billion sterling through the European Investment Bank. And as you say, they claim none of that can be repaid until 2050. And there is this question of our share of the assets. Charles, I promise you, one of the things I will ask him tomorrow is what happens to our share and why are you trying to delay it for 30 years? Charles, I'll ask that. I absolutely promise you. You're listening to the Sunday edition of the Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC, here on Sunday morning, and it's 10:15.
He carries that fear.
I don't know if you and I have the same ideas of freedom.
It's close to home, it matters more.
LBC at the weekend. Majid Nawaz.
Why is the far right rising? I'll tell you. When you silence reasonable voices who are attempting to have a rational conversation around facts, then those extremist voices rise to the forefront.
Leading Britain's conversation. Majid Nawaz. Today from 12 on LBC.
Oak Furnitureland's up to 50% off winter sale is now on, and this weekend only we've amazing January extra savings. We have solid oak coffee tables from $199 and sideboards from only $299. Go online now to find a store near you. Oak Furnitureland's January extra savings must end Sunday.
Onward.
We've travelled, been there, shared rum with the locals. That mountain was near impossible to climb, but we got to the top for sunrise. We've looked over the edge of the infinity pool into the valley below and floated above herds of elephants in a hot air balloon. We can tell you about it because we've travelled it. The Kuoni sale is now on, so pop into one of our beautiful stores for a down-to-earth chat. At Kuoni, our experience makes yours. At all protected.
Sangeeta used to dread taking meter readings. Tracking Gaz and Lecky meant going into the gloomy depths of the cupboard under the stairs. Last time she emerged with a sore nose, a bruised elbow, and a fuming temper. Fortunately, Sangeeta has just had a smart meter installed, which sends the readings directly to her energy supplier. And an in-home display shows exactly how much energy she's using, so no more trips to the cupboard. Contact your energy supplier today about getting your smart meter. At no extra cost.
Grinding up your home this weekend? At B&Q, we've got a fantastic paint and decorating range at prices you'll love. Like 10 litres of Leyland Pure Brilliant White and Magnolia Matte Emulsion was £12, now £10. And Dial 5-piece paintbrush set for just £9.87. The wow starts now at B&Q. Offer ends 31st of January. Some stores excluded. See DIY.com for details.
To re-record your message at any time, press #.
Hey, baby. No, that's rubbish. Hey, just calling to see what's shaking. Hi, it's me, just checking in before I hit the old Jim-a-rooney. No. Hi, I just love you, okay? Can't say that.
Message completed.
No.
With Vodafone Pay-As-You-Go One, you can stay in touch as much as you like and never pay more than £1 a day. The rest is on us.
Hi, listen, about that message.
Search Vodafone Pay-As-You-Go One. The future is exciting. Ready? Vodafone.
Opt in and spend £1 a day for unlimited standard calls and text plus 500 meg of data in the UK and or Eurozone. Terms and exclusions at vodafone.co.uk/pay-as-you-go1.
Even if you only employ one person, you have to provide a workplace pension. It's the law. Get to know your responsibilities with help from the pensions regulator. Visit workplacepensions.gov.uk.
No need to be frozen this winter.
Well, it's not Ice Age.
Indeed, some like it hot. And until April the 1st, Swale Heating are giving away 2 free cinema tickets with every A-rated Worcester Bosch boiler. Plus, you'll get a warranty of up to 10 years and a year's free cover for the whole central heating system, subject to survey. And they can fit within 24 hours if necessary.
Mamma mia. That's good.
Just text the word frozen to 84433 today.
People will be in hot pursuit.
Enough already. Taxi!
Driver.
The Nigel Farage Show. Text 84850.
I'm off to meet the EU big cheese, Michel Barnier, their head negotiator, at 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. And I'm asking you, what should I be asking him? Now, there are some people, of course, who don't even think we should move on to phase 2, who don't even believe there should be a debate about the terms upon which we leave. They don't even think we should be leaving. And Alistair Campbell, true to form, this morning, has had a real go at Andrew Marr on the BBC. He says right from the word go, Andrew Marr sets the usual BBC News tone on Brexit. 2018, the year we decide how we leave the EU, should be whether. But the Beeb black out on this debate, and I have to say, I did tweet back, come on Alistair, the war is over, mate. But there are the Alistair Campbells, and there are even Sir Vince Cable, who we had in the studio the other Sunday. There are people who want, genuinely, an exit from Brexit. They are, in my view, predominantly amongst the ruling classes of this country, and I don't think, out in the country, that view commands very much support. Certainly not 48%, far less than half of that. Michael is a new caller from Camden. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning, Nigel. How are you?
I'm well. So, what do you think I should be doing tomorrow with Michel Barnier?
Well, I've got a question to ask you. Why are you going?
Oh.
I mean, you say that you're going to ask questions that need to be asked, but do you believe in democracy, Nigel?
Well, I do, Michael, which is why I do want Mr. Barnier to be acutely aware that not only did we defy the international community, every big business in the world, on the 23rd of June 2016, but that in a general election, 85% of us voted for parties that said we should leave the EU, the single market, and indeed take back control of our borders. So I do believe in democracy, Michael, yes.
Yeah, but Nigel, here's a fact. We have, like it or not, whether we're conservative or otherwise, whether we're behind Theresa May in our personal thoughts or not, we have a legitimately elected Prime Minister representing a party that represents the country in a negotiation with another party. And with all due respect, you and others that go to meet Barnier and everybody else do is undermine the person that we've actually elected to lead us in this negotiation.
Okay, no.
17.4 million.
I understand the point you're making. I understand the point you're making. All right, well, let's put it like this, Michael. I don't want to undermine the Prime Minister's position on this. I want to back up absolutely everything she said a year ago next week in her Lancaster House speech. That was her first...
What is your elected position to represent me and the rest of the majority of the populace who elected our government?
Oh, Michael.
No, Nigel, what is your...
Let me tell you, Michael, I lead...
Please tell me.
You can listen if you want to. I lead the biggest UK political party in the European Parliament. Why? Because I led UKIP into the 2014 European elections and we won. We came top. The first time since 1906 that a party that wasn't Labour or Conservative won a national UK-wide election. That is why. Funny enough, Michael, I would have been in Brussels tomorrow anyway, because I don't only go there as a UKIP MEP, I lead a group in the European Parliament too.
Is different. Who do you represent in an officially elected capacity?
If you didn't get the answer first time, I'm not going to win second time, am I?
Well, no, you're not, because you do not hold a democratically elected...
Oh, Michael, please. Right, let me just try this. It's Sunday morning, so I'm not going to get shirty, but I'll try this one more time on you, all right? So I am a member of the European Parliament. I represent UKIP. I was the leader of the party at the last European elections in 2014, where we beat the Conservative Party, we beat the Labour Party, we won. We came first. We have the most MEPs from the United Kingdom. Not only that, but I've got other Eurosceptic groups with me. I lead nearly 50 MEPs in the European Parliament. I sit on the front row. I sit in seat number 20, and Mr Juncker sits in seat number 21. Do you think I have democratic legitimacy to go tomorrow?
Not on the basis that we as a country are negotiating.
Michael, I've enjoyed your call. We're going to have to move on. Well, folks, I did try my absolute hardest there. I mean, what elected authority did Sir Nicholas Clegg have to go and meet Michel Barnier? You could argue none, but whether Nick Clegg's in Parliament or not, even I wouldn't say he didn't have an important voice in this debate, because he is our former Deputy Prime Minister. And, you know, it was after that meeting that I thought, well, they're hearing from the other side, they're hearing from a somewhat timid government who have rather backtracked a bit since Theresa May's Lancaster House speech. Surely it's about time the views of the 17.4 million were heard. And you know, I get this argument, oh, well, people didn't know what they were voting for. They certainly did. And if you couldn't have missed it if you voted Leave, that it was about leaving the European Union, leaving the single market, and taking back control of our borders, our fisheries, and not being governed by foreign courts. All of those things were absolutely clear in the referendum. At least they were, in my view. Mike is calling from Croydon. He's a new caller to the show as well. Good morning.
Good morning to you, sir, and Nigel, good efforts on your behalf, and many thanks for that. This is a bit of a convoluted question. It comes from listening to Lord Adonis talking to Ian Dale the other day regarding the referendum, so bear with me.
This was the one, Mike, where he said he wanted to sabotage Brexit, yeah?
But that was the very one. But the comment that made my sort of hackles rise somewhat was he said, the Brexiteers have to come on and explain, if there was a referendum, how things are going to change, because he said, because obviously if we stay within the EU, then we just maintain the status quo. And my rhetorical question, which I would like you to ask Barnier, is, does he think that we will maintain the status quo if we do stay in the EU? Because I can see massive changes coming, and I would like those explained. And I do think it's incumbent, if we do have a referendum, that the stayers do actually spell out the changes. And some of the changes, Macron is going to be an enormous force for change within the EU.
You've made a very strong point. All through the referendum, it was voting to remain is safe, because we know exactly what the EU is and it will stay this way forever, and voting to leave is a risk. You're quite right, Mike. The European Union is changing very, very rapidly, and it's not just Macron who wants to really accelerate centralisation within the European Union. Merkel does as well, although she's in coalition talks today, and whether she can get back as Chancellor or Germany has to have fresh elections remains to be seen. But you know something? When Juncker came to give the State of Union speech this year, Mike, and he said, in future, there'll be no opt-outs, there'll be no exemptions. Every country must join the euro. Every country must join Schengen, and every country must commit to a foreign policy without veto and to being a fully paid up part of the European army. So, Mike, actually, I think that they are trying as quickly as they possibly can. Before, I believe, as they see it, the revolt gathers pace. They're trying to close the door on the United States of Europe before anybody else tries to wriggle out. And I will, Mike, do my very best to get from him, the question of, if we were to reverse Brexit, what would it mean? I'll do my best to do that. Thank you. Loads of messages coming in. I require publication of all minutes of meetings, including Clegg, Clark, etc. We have a right to know. If not, why? Can you record all your EU meetings? Says Mark from Milton Keynes. Mark, I am taking somebody... I was going to say a scribe, but he's actually a lawyer. I'll be taking somebody in with me tomorrow so that we will make sure we minute the questions I ask and the answers we get, and that is only right and proper, I think, in these circumstances. Edward says, I accept that in the referendum a small majority voted to leave. However, on such a major issue, I accept that the so-called will of the people could change. If you are so confident that Brexit is popular, Nigel, why are you scared of another referendum? Edward, because we have chosen that fork in the road, and you know, here we are 18 months on. Just look at the numbers now. I mean, Leave now has a very, very much bigger lead than it did last time round. And to put the country through another referendum, when I think, to be honest, we're pretty sure what the result would be not only a shocking waste of time, effort and money, but very destabilising. Actually, what we need is to start being a bit clearer in terms of the vision of where we're trying to go. And I certainly think business would like to see a bit of this. Dave is calling from Hammersmith. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning, Nigel. I'd like you to ask him why he's continually making negative comments that seek to undermine the friendship that we have with the EU, because we have to trade afterwards. And it seems to me that, you know, the TBJ group of Tusk, Barnier and Juncker are just making comments to alienate people. I didn't vote for Brexit because I didn't believe the government was capable of actually doing it properly. I'd have rather an organisation that actually wanted it and did it. Now, the thing is that he's doing these comments. I'll give you an example of one. There'll be no bespoke agreement with the UK. Well, of course there'll be a bespoke agreement. What else were we going to have? Just Canada's deal? Just Japan's deal? Of course, the deal has to be bespoke. There's no two deals are going to be the same. I doubt there's any two deals with Europe that are the same. And the thing is that when he does this, he turns people against the EU, and we have to trade with them afterwards. We want to trade. This is all about us wanting to trade and not wanting to be controlled. I mean, if we go and trade with India, we're not going to just go and say, well, yes, you've got free access to our health service, because we're just going to trade. That's the foundation of democracy.
And actually, Dave, it's in the interest of the European people too, isn't it?
Exactly. This is the point. I really don't think that he's representing the countries.
Nor do I.
I really don't.
Nor do I. Dave, nor do I. No, you're absolutely right. I thank you for the call. And in fact, the second question I'd picked out from the thousands of tweets that have come in already to hashtag Ask Barnier, which is open for another half an hour, was one from Sergio to ask him what he thinks will happen to the EU economy if he fails to secure a trade deal with us. What would the impact be on EU citizens if the EU were to stop trade with the UK? Well, trade won't stop, but trade might become a little bit more difficult. And you're quite right, Sergio. It's his people that would suffer far more than us. And yet, to date, he doesn't appear to give a damn about the peoples of Europe. I think he cares about those big glass and steel structures, the salaries, the pension, the way of life. Hey, I've been there for 18 years. I'm repulsed by it. I don't like it, but I can see why, for tens of thousands of people, it's been the best thing since sliced bread. You're listening to the Sunday edition of the Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC. It's 10:30 and time for the news with Philip Chrysikos.
Major retailers are to ban under-18s from buying corrosive substances following a rise in the number of acid attacks. Waitrose, Tesco and Co-op are among those signing a government pledge as ministers look at making it illegal to carry the substances without good reason. Ministers will investigate the way the Parole Board of England and Wales makes its decisions following the imminent release of a serial sex attacker. The Justice Secretary says he wants more openness after some victims of John Warboys said they hadn't been consulted. Pubs could stay open for longer across the weekend of the 18th and 19th of May to mark the marriage of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. The government's begun a 4-week consultation. LBC weather, dry and sunny, bitterly cold across the south, cloudier with rain over the Shetlands, a high of 6 degrees.
LBC Travel in Barking on the North Circular southbound. 2 lanes are closed before the Barking flyover because the car's broken down and is leaking fuel. In Grove Park, the traffic lights on Verdant Lane aren't working at Whitefoot Lane. In Islington, the A1 Holloway Road stays closed between Highbury Corner and Furlong Road until tomorrow morning because of roadworks. In Epsom, Church Street is closed in both directions between Depot Road and Upper High Street. That's because a wall's collapsed. It's very slow on the M4 Heathrow Spur Road heading into the tunnels towards the terminals. And on London Overground, there are replacement buses running between Hackney Downs and Chingford. That's because of engineering works today. LBC Travel, I'm Dave Goff.
This is LBC.
This is the sound of a Virgin holiday at Walt Disney World Resort, Florida. And this is the sound of it disappearing in our January sale. The Virgin Holiday Sale. It won't last forever, and save 10% this weekend. Hurry, ends Monday. Seize the holiday. Virgin Holidays. Sell now on Atoll Protected.
Hello, it's me, Dracula. Relax, I don't bite much. Unlike the cost of some broadband deals, that's why I switched to Sky Broadband Unlimited. It's monstrously good value. Just £18 a month for 12 months, including line rental, plus a $9.95 setup fee. Exclusively for new and existing Sky TV customers. It's totally unlimited, and they'll never slow you down, even at peak times. Well, you don't want anything to stop the flow when you're screaming. Sorry, streaming, do you? Search Sky Broadband. Sky. Believing better. Sky network areas and new broadband customers only. 12-month contract. Further terms apply.
Do you realise we've been on the phone for over an hour? It's crazy we can't talk all night. One of us has to hang up first. Yeah, well, I'm not going to. No, you hang up. No, you. No, you. No, you. Hello? Hello? Oh, she has.
With Vodafone Pay-As-You-Go One, you can stay in touch as much as you like and never pay more than £1 a day. The rest is on us, so you'll only ever have to hang up when you're ready. Search Vodafone Pay-As-You-Go One. The future is exciting. Ready? Vodafone.
Opt in and spend £1 a day for unlimited standard calls and text plus 500 meg of data in the UK and our Europe zone. Terms and exclusions at vodafone.co.uk/pay-as-you-go1.
Is that Paul? Yes, it is Paul. I'm calling from the Big Lottery Fund, just regarding the Man Health project that you've applied to for reaching communities.
Yes, I've had my fingers and toes crossed. Is it good news or bad news?
Paul provides mental health support to young men in his community, thanks to national lottery players.
We're pleased to tell you that we've awarded you the full amount.
Oh, man, that's unbelievable. It's made my day.
Excellent.
Help make the extraordinary happen. Play Lotto this Saturday. Rules and procedures apply. Players must be 16 or over.
At Homebase, we're all about great value to refresh your bathroom. Take away a complete bathroom, including bath, basin, pedestal, toilet and taps, for just £208. Homebase. Always low prices.
What is your dream holiday? A safari in South Africa or a swim in Aruba? How about pancakes in the States or the fresh air of Vancouver? Whatever your choice, KLM gets you there. Book quickly though. KLM's Dream Deals end on Monday the 15th of January. Check out klm.com and take off.
The Nigel Farage Show on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
I'm off to meet Mr. Barnier. I think the views of 17.4 million people ought to be represented, and I do think immigration should not completely be brushed under the carpet, but talked about. And I'm not sure. I'm convinced that when Sir Nicholas Clegg went there, it wasn't talked about, and I even wonder whether the British government have talked about it. They seem to be wrapped up just in trade, and whilst that's important, this referendum was about more than just economics and trade. It was about sovereignty, democracy, controlling our borders, fishing waters, etc. But before I go there, and we come back to this debate, we can't ignore what's going on in America. Journalist Michael Wolff, who had access to the West Wing and the White House, and who spent some time talking to President Trump, although I have to be honest, not very much time. He says himself it was a maximum of 3 hours, but nonetheless, he's written this book about Trump, about Trump's personal habits, about Trump's eccentricities, and he says that all around, people are questioning Trump's credibility. They're questioning his mental stability. He even says there have been debates about whether Article 25 of the US Constitution should be invoked, which could see him removed as president because he's unfit to govern. Now, I have to say, I take all of this pretty much with a pinch of salt. I've known a lot of billionaires in my business life and political life, and every single one of them is pretty idiosyncratic. It's kind of how they make it in the first place. And I began to doubt some of the legitimacy of this book when some of the subsequent extracts showed that apparently he asked the president about Brexit, and the president didn't know what Brexit is. I'm sorry, but, all the campaign team around Trump, were all focused really heavily on Brexit, and after November the 8th and the victory, they all believed that without Brexit, Trump simply couldn't have won. So I do question that. I'm not saying all the book's wrong. I'm sure some of the stuff, as I say, about his eccentricities are true. But this question of mental stability, and it's a pretty wounding thing to be said publicly about anybody. But the president himself responded on Twitter, obviously, as only he can, by saying, actually, throughout my life, my 2 greatest assets have been mental stability and being, really smart. Crooked Hillary Clinton also played these cards very hard, and as everyone knows, went down in flames. I went from very, in big capital letters, very successful businessman to top TV star to President of the United States on my first try. I think that would qualify me as not smart, but genius. And a very stable genius at that. Well, before I give my thoughts on what he was saying there, Theresa May, our Prime Minister, was asked about Trump and about this furore on the Andrew Marr Show this morning.
You've seen a lot of Donald Trump one way or another. Child or stable genius?
I do. Obviously, I've worked with President Trump on a number of issues, as we continue to work with the United States on a number of issues. President Trump,
What do you make of him?
What I make of him is somebody who is taking decisions on what he believes is in the best interests of the United States. The United Kingdom government and I will take decisions here on what we believe is in the best interests of the UK.
In the States, there are quite serious questions being raised by some people about his mental state. Do you think they're serious?
No. As I say, when I deal with President Trump, what I see is somebody who is committed to ensuring that he is taking decisions in the best interests of the United States.
And he's coming to this country?
He will be coming to this country.
Well, there was the Prime Minister actually being quite supportive of the President. My take on it is this. What Trump does when there's a big crisis, a big row, a big argument, what he's the master of is deflecting attention. So he uses this phrase, stable genius, and it has sent the liberal media into an absolute meltdown frenzy. They can't believe it. They're angrier about him saying he's a stable genius about himself than they are about what's been put in Michael Wolff's book. So it is this stable genius that is now leading all the headlines, becoming the centre of all the debate. And dummies, that's exactly what the president got you to do, because what Trump is clever at, he's good at lobbing a grenade over there, and it goes bang, and everyone focuses on that, and not what they were doing to begin with. And yeah, look, I get it. Donald Trump isn't an Ivy League intellectual. I understand all of that. What he has guts and instinct, and he's a street fighter, and he may play the game in a pretty unconventional way. As I said earlier, every billionaire I've met has been pretty idiosyncratic stroke eccentric in terms of how they live their lives and what they do. Is this book going to damage him? I don't think it will. I think the base will just see it as yet another outright assault on him. The one certainty, absolute certainty from all of this is that Michael Wolff will become a very, very rich man. Because actually, when the president himself attacked the author and attacked the book, all that he did was give it bigger publicity and huge queues, despite the appalling winter weather of people queuing up to buy. Fire and fury. There we are. Back to Mr. Barnier, my meeting with him tomorrow, and me asking you, what should I be asking him? And Kevin, a new caller from Doncaster, is on the line. Good morning.
Morning, Nigel. Yes, a little thing about Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Just Google the White House website and check out what he's doing on there. While people think he's arguing about this book, he's not. No. He's got his top people arresting a lot of influential people throughout the world. So people need to go onto the website and see what he's actually doing on the White House website.
Arresting people, Kevin?
Yeah, there's a few influential people being arrested over the last few days.
OK, well, I haven't seen that, but as I said, Kevin, he's very, very good at deflecting attention somewhere whilst he gets on with the job of being president. Absolutely. So, what do I ask Barnier, Kevin?
Yeah, I would like you to ask him, why we haven't seen any EU accounts for over 20 years.
Well, the answer to that is, Kevin, that we have seen EU accounts over the last 20 years, but every year what we've had in the final auditor's report is their deep reservations about elements of the accounts and missing money, and the suspicion that several billion a year goes missing in fraud. And I think perhaps the worst area of this consistently has been the EU's foreign aid budget. So to say the accounts have not been shown for 20 years would be wrong, but to say they've not been fully endorsed and signed off as a true and accurate record would equally be true as well.
Yeah, well, surely someone's culpable for the money going missing then.
Well, no, that's a perfectly fair question, Kevin, and it's interesting because there is a really big cultural difference here that Northern European countries view money, public money, as being absolutely sacrosanct. And the further south you go, the more relaxed the attitude seems to become. Doesn't mean we're better than them or worse than them, but they're different attitudes around Europe to this. They really are.
Nigel, I've been to Portugal recently and France, Denmark, Holland, and those people are not happy with the European Union. No. But my Dutch friend said, if the Dutch voted to leave, then they would be absolutely screwed. But that they're not a contributing country into the EU. We are.
Well, Kevin, this debate is going on elsewhere. I thank you for your call. And indeed, one of the questions I get here from Tony is, hi Nigel, ask Barnier how long the EU can last when you look at Central and Eastern Europe rebelling on immigration. Well, Tony, it's not just immigration, it's also in Poland, judicial appointments. And I thought it was very interesting that Viktor Orban, the very popular Prime Minister of Hungary, gave a New Year's message about Judeo-Christian culture in Hungary, what it meant to him as Prime Minister, what it meant as he saw it to Hungarian society, and how he wasn't going to allow EU immigration to damage that, and that for a Christmas Day message really was a red rag being held up to Angela Merkel, Mr Juncker, Michel Barnier and all the rest of them. If I did ask him how long the EU will last, he'll probably tell me that it's looking better and stronger than it's ever been. But the reality, Tony, as you say, and our previous caller said even in Portugal, is that actually, and this is a point being missed, I think, here a little bit by some of the commentators, that actually the populist revolt, if you want to call it that, I don't call it that, because I think the word populist is used as a very pejorative term, but whichever way you cut it, with the exception of Macron winning in France, right across Europe, north, south, east and west, you are seeing opposition, right-wing opposition, left-wing opposition, some in the centre. Opposition to the project is growing, and that is my guess as to why Barnier is trying to be so harsh with the United Kingdom. They want to make it look like it's a prison from which the price of escaping is simply too high. I could be wrong, but that's what I intend to find out tomorrow at 11 o'clock in my meeting. You're listening to the Sunday edition of the Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC, and it's 10:45.
LBC and its sister stations from Global bring you a brand new event. The Global Awards, rewarding the very best from the world of music, news and entertainment. The Global Awards.
And the award for Best News Moment, Interview or Debate goes to...
One incredible night with performances from Andrea Bocelli and Sam Smith performing live. And you can have your say on who will win at the Global Awards. Voting is now open. To vote, download the Global Player app or go to lbc.co.uk. March the 1st, 2018. The Global Awards. It's coming.
When your cold goes from bad to worse, what do you make? A hot honey and lemon drink? That won't cut it. Try Strong Stuff, Day and Night Nurse. Its 24-hour relief can knock out your worst symptoms, helping you to sleep well. Day and Night Nurse capsules, only available at the pharmacy counter.
Refers to having capsules for day and night for cold and flu relief. Always read the label.
Ambitious and determined to succeed?
Study for a 2-year degree at GSM London for just £12,000 this February and make your bold dreams happen.
Accelerated degrees are a great way to progress your career faster.
And they're awarded by Plymouth University.
Enroll now at our Greenford and Greenwich campuses and follow your dreams of success.
Act fast. Offer ends January 15th.
Search Have Bold Dreams at GSM London.
Special offer. Conditions apply.
Just how amazing is the Virgin Atlantic sale? As amazing as going on a blind date with a doctor, a hot doctor from Sweden, who was an astronaut before he was a hot doctor. In his spare time, he runs a rescue centre for puppies. Blind puppies. Yeah, the Virgin Atlantic sale is that kind of amazing. Visit virginatlantic.com to book.
At British Gas, we have everything you need for when winter does its worst. Our home care boiler cover starts from just £12 a month. That's less than 40p a day and includes a yearly service. Plus, we're giving you up to £100 to treat yourself when you buy selected home care products online by the 28th of February. So why wait? Search British Gas Home Care. Terms and conditions apply.
Oak Furnitureland's up to 50% off winter sale is now on, and this weekend only we've amazing January extra savings. We have solid oak coffee tables from $199 and sideboards from only $299. Go online now to find a store near you. Oak Furnitureland's January extra savings must end Sunday.
Onward. Block management. It's a doddle, isn't it? I mean, once you've got budget approval, all you need to do is your service charge invoices,
health and safety regulations paperwork, do the cleaning, the gardening, general maintenance, sort out site inspections, arrange contracts, insurance, emergency representation.
Yes, block management. Such a doddle.
Save time and money and cut down on the stress. For complete block management solutions, just call ABC Estates. ABC will take care of all your day-to-day management, leaving you as happy as Larry.
For complete block management solutions, see abcestates.co.uk or call 0800 888 6688.
The Nigel Farage Show on LBC.
Brexit is not the only problem Mr Barnier and the European Commission have, and the third question that was sent we picked from the thousands sent in by you, was from James Goad from Worcester, and his question was, is Monsieur Barnier keen to see the continuation of mass immigration from unestimable millions from the third world countries into the nations of the EU? If so, why does he support such measures? Well, this business of assimilation is a very, very big issue. And I will ask him that question, because I think really the one issue that has changed European politics and brought it to a wider audience than any other has been the free movement of people, not just within the European Union, but that policy launched by Mr. Juncker and backed up by Mrs. Merkel in 2015, that virtually anybody who set foot on European soil would be allowed to stay. And it is fundamentally changing European politics. So I promise you, James, I will ask him that question tomorrow. Any other ideas? Welcome. Robin is a new caller from Whitehaven in Cumbria. Good morning, Robin.
Good morning, Nigel. I'd like to, I've got a few issues. I voted to leave myself, but after voting to leave, I think I need more information now, because I tell you the biggest issue I've got with it is I voted to leave, and I think the people of the country were misled to some degree. The fishermen thought they would get their waters back.
As they should.
I don't think they're going to.
Well, why not, Robin?
If you're honest with yourself, they're not going to get it. So this is what I've got.
Well, they better do.
I don't think there's any chance of that happening. I think, Nigel, what will happen is Theresa May's government will do a deal to keep the Westminster city elite on a special deal so they can carry on as they are with the financial services, and the average working man and woman will just feel worse off than they are already. I think we should be given another vote. I know you probably won't agree with that, but I'll probably vote to leave again myself, but I want more information. But I also want a government who are going to do the leaving fairly. That's my problem with it. The Tories are not going to do it fairly.
Well, that's a separate question, isn't it? So it's not Brexit you're unhappy with, it's the way the government are handling Brexit you're unhappy with. And you know what, Robin? I share that with you. Fisheries, for me, was one of the key motivations. It's why I allowed Sir Bob Geldof, to rant at me on the Thames for about a 2-hour period on the Wednesday before the referendum. When people living in places like Whitehaven, a port up there in Cumbria, I'm sure a lot of those people in that town went to vote, probably non-voters normally, saying, hey, we've got to leave because we'll get back proper territorial waters and a chance for this harbour to have more boats in it. I completely, Robin, understand that. And all I can say to you is, they have to get that. They have to get that. And if Mrs. May's government won't give it to them, then it's a battle that will need to be refought.
Can you ask Mr. Barnier, if we decide to stay in, can we stay in on the exact same terms as we are?
No, there's no point asking him that, because as I've explained already during this hour, Robin, the European Union now want to move full steam ahead to a European army, a foreign policy without veto, everyone to be in the Euro and the Schengen area.
Well, I think any other thing you enter, a contract legal agreement, you have a cooling off period, Nigel. And the people of this great nation were misled on both sides, but we need a more informed debate, and then we can decide if we're definitely going. Because I'll tell you something, do you look at the continent, their health system isn't as bad as ours. You're on about the free movement of people coming to this country. I don't have a problem with anyone coming to this country. What I have a problem with is the government's attack on trade unions that let employers employ these people because they know they can treat them
Well, I mean, Robin, look, open door immigration has been a very, very good thing for big companies and for the rich, and we know that. Robin, I sense your problem isn't Brexit. Your problem is the Tory government, and I understand that, and I respect that, but I repeat the point on fisheries. When we leave the European Union, we must get back our waters, and we must be like Norway, the Faroe Islands and Iceland, and have this amazing, in fact, in many ways, the greatest renewable asset that we possess, the fish within our waters, which, if managed properly, will be there forever. And we'll get tens of thousands of jobs back into the fishing community, benefiting, Robin, places like Whitehaven, where, of course, you indeed come from. Good morning, Nigel. I want to ask Mr. Barnier why you are opposed to the UK leaving the EU. Is it because you're running scared about what it may do to the rest of the Union, BB? Well, believe me, that conversation is bound to happen tomorrow morning. I'm sure that Monsieur Barnier will be as unfailingly polite as he always is. But it's going to be very interesting to get his perspective on all of this. Ask Barnier to explain the chain of command and the rules of engagement of the EU's proposed military strike force, says Richard. Richard, there isn't quite going to be time, I'm afraid, tomorrow morning for all of that. Vital and important though that question is, and that's certainly a question that does need to be raised in the European Parliament. I certainly agree with that. Tim is calling from Chesterfield in Derbyshire. Good morning, Tim.
Good morning, Nigel. Happy New Year to you.
And to you, and to you. So, what should I be doing? How should I play it, Tim? What should my game plan be?
Well, my question is, Brexit voters really have never had any doubt in their minds as to where they wanted to go, and that was out of Europe. Mm-hmm. If you asked Brexit voters before, during, and after the referendum, they would be very, very clear on where they wanted to go, and that is out of Europe, to take back control and to have control over managed EU migration. And Brexit voters were very, very, very clear on the question on the ballot sheet. Mm-hmm. So how come, after we've had this referendum, you're now asking the question, we want to put some questions to Mr. Barnier? Because I'll tell you this much. Brexit voters were so sure of themselves, they didn't go to their MEPs or they didn't go on the internet to look at how the EU structures are how they're consistent and how they're put together, because they were so sure of themselves that they wanted out. All of a sudden, now you want details. There was nothing stopping Brexiteers asking their MEPs for details about how the EU...
And Tim, can I assure you that many of them did? As you know, I've been there since 1999, and I've had thousands of letters and emails from people asking questions about how EU law is made. So look, you could argue both Remain voters and Brexit voters perhaps didn't delve as deep as you might like them to have done. But hang on, people do have busy lives as well, don't they?
Oh, please, please, please! If you're making a major decision that's going to affect your life, you're going to find out. You're going to make efforts to find out about it. But my contention is, I don't think Brexiteers did. They were so sure. And second, I'm very sad to say this, but secondly, when you mentioned that you represent the biggest group in the EU, can I just say, UKIP is not on the intensive care. It's died. UKIP has died.
Tim, what I said was that I represent the party that won the last set of European elections in 2014, and that mandate ends in May of 2019. I was asked a question about democratic legitimacy of my attending this meeting tomorrow. I couldn't really have more, could I?
You know what? When you talked the other week about it's time for Remainers to put up and shut up and just get behind the get behind the government. This now sounds like UKIP and etc. and Brexiteers are now saying, "Oh my gosh, this is the real world now," and this swelling in our chest of wanting our country back. We're going to have to be a bit more specific. Tim.
Of course we want all the same things we wanted, and Brexit voters, in the main, hold those views even more strongly than they did back on June 23rd. But my concern, Tim and everybody else, is that 17.4 million have not had their voices heard. I will endeavour to start a process of doing that tomorrow, and once I've been there, there'll be others from the Leave side that go there as well, and that's a very good thing. So in conclusion, I'm going to ask Paul William-Smith's question about does Barnier understand why we voted for Brexit. I'm going to ask Sergio's question about what happens to the EU economy if there's not a trade deal, because they need us economically. There are more jobs dependent upon us in Europe than there are the other way around. And I'm going to ask James's question about how Monsieur Barnier sees mass immigration into the European Union from coming across the Mediterranean and elsewhere. They're the three that I've picked. Thank you to the thousands of you who've engaged in this by sending in your questions. Now, coming up in the next hour, tomorrow we're told that Theresa May will move to sack at least 6 members of her cabinet in a reshuffle. It's designed to refresh her top team. An aide said she wanted to make sure the government reflects the modern and diverse country that we live in. But what do you want to see from the reshuffle? If you believe it's important that it does, in percentage terms, reflect society, call me on 0345 6060 973. Maybe you think, doesn't really matter, just get the best person for the job, then text to 84850. Or maybe you think a balance needs to be struck, and that tokenism would be a dangerous thing, in which case tweet using the hashtag Farage and LBC at LBC, and watch me on Facebook. I'm live from London next.
On FM, online, on your mobile, and on digital radio. Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 11 o'clock, some of Britain's biggest retailers are promising to stop selling corrosive substances to under-18s following a rise in the number of acid attacks. Wickes and Tesco are among those joining the voluntary plan. Smaller independent retailers are being encouraged to take part. It's as the government says it wants to make carrying corrosive substances without good reason an offence. Nazir Afzal, who's a former Chief Crown Prosecutor, has told LBC it's a start.
It's voluntary, so there are no sanctions if they choose to sell. It doesn't tackle the big issue around online purchases. I just checked this morning. You can buy 96% sulfuric acid for next day delivery for £10. I could destroy your face with that. And so it doesn't tackle the ultimate issue, but it will limit some of it.
Theresa May says she'll continue as Prime Minister for as long as people want me to serve. Mrs May adds she wants to lead the Conservatives into the next general election expected in 2022, saying, "I'm not a quitter, I'm in this for the long term." It comes as reports say 6 senior ministers will be sacked or moved in the Prime Minister's cabinet reshuffle. The Sunday Telegraph reports the Education Minister, Justine Greening, is among those going from Theresa May's top team. It's understood the hirings and firings will be across tomorrow and Tuesday, with middle-ranking and junior ministers appointed, and Nigel will be leading Britain's conversation on that story next. Authorities in China are searching for 32 crew members from an Iranian oil tanker who are missing after it crashed into a goods ship and caught fire. It happened off China's east coast. The crew of the other vessel have been accounted for. A government review is to start into how the parole board in England and Wales makes its decisions as a serial sex attacker John Warboys awaits his release. Justice Secretary David Lidington says he'll look at ways to increase transparency to ensure full confidence in the system. 33,000 people have now signed a petition against plans to clear homeless people from the streets around Windsor Castle. It follows the leader of the Royal Borough of Windsor and Maidenhead, Simon Dudley, saying having them there for the royal wedding of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle would put tourists off. Separately, pubs across the country could be allowed to stay open longer on the day of the royal wedding. A 4-week consultation period has begun to extend licences until 1 in the morning on the weekend of the 18th and the 19th of May. It's likely England's cricketers will end the Ashes series with a 4th loss out of 5. They finished day 4 in Sydney on 93 for 4, 210 runs away from avoiding an innings defeat by Australia. England assistant coach Paul Farbrace says it feels all too familiar.
The last few days have summed up our trip, haven't they? I mean, it's been exceptionally tough. We've come up against a team that have played very good cricket. They've kept the pressure on us at all times.
LBC weather, dry and sunny, bitterly cold though across the south. For the Shetlands, cloudier with rain, a high of 6 degrees. From Global's newsroom, for LBC, I'm Philip Chrysikos.
When your cold goes from bad to worse, what do you make? A hot honey and lemon drink? That won't cut it. Try Strong Stuff, Day and Night Nurse. Its 24-hour relief can knock out your worst symptoms, helping you to sleep well. Day and Night Nurse capsules, only available at the pharmacy counter.
Refers to having capsules for day and night for cold and flu relief. Always read the label.
LBC Travel embarking on the North Circular southbound. 2 lanes are closed before the Barking flyover because the car's broken down and is leaking fuel. In Islington, the A1 Holloway Road remains closed between Highbury Corner and Furlong Road until tomorrow morning because of roadworks. It's very slow on the M4 going westbound out of London towards Junction 4 for the Heathrow Spur Road. The Heathrow Spur is also looking very slow towards the terminals. In Epsom, Church Street is closed in both directions between Depot Road and Upper High Street because the walls collapsed. And on the rails, there's no Stansted Express all day because of engineering works, so buses replace trains between Liverpool Street and the airport. LBC Travel, I'm Dave Goff.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation. The Nigel Farage Show.
So we're told tomorrow is going to be the big reshuffle, the first major one that Theresa May has conducted as Prime Minister. Perhaps up to half a dozen of existing ministers, now the ones thought to be dead wood, will be cleared out of the way, and a new, diverse, exciting team, we're told, to be put in its place. Well, joining me to explain this and the background is Theo Usherwood, LBC's political editor. Good morning, Theo.
Very good morning, Nigel.
So what's the background of this? What's the story?
The background to this, Nigel, is that after what happened at just before Christmas with the when it came down to Theresa May going to Brussels, she now is in a more secure position, having bounced on to phase two. Of course, then what happened with Damien Green having to resign as the Cabinet Office Minister, so prompted questions of who's going to replace him as the de facto Deputy Prime Minister. Theresa May deciding to put off that decision. Now, in terms of who's not moving, we're pretty sure that Boris Johnson, the Foreign Secretary, Philip Hammond, the Chancellor, Amber Rudd, the Home Secretary, they're going to stay in post, as will David Davis, the Brexit Secretary. But looking down the rungs, so to speak, Justine Greening, the Education Secretary, she's thought to be vulnerable. She tweeted yesterday that school standards are rising. And there's a feeling, Nigel, that what she really done while she's been in that job, and that Theresa May can simply demote her or sack her even without ruffling too many feathers. And then, of course, Greg Clark at Business, he also falls into that category. Another vulnerable person is the Tory party chairman, Patrick McLaughlin. He's been widely blamed for the election campaign failing to deliver, and he's expected to lose his job as the Tory party chairman. In terms of who's going to replace him, somebody widely tipped, very much liked on the Conservative backbenches, James Cleverly, a former member of a Tory member, of course, of the London Assembly, risen through the ranks. And there's a feeling, Nigel, I think from the 2015 intake in particular of Tory MPs, that really now it's their turn to have a go at the top jobs, and it's no good Theresa May simply bagging the jobs for those who've been at the helm, at the top of the party for, under David Cameron. It's time to give some fresh blood a go at running some ministries.
And of course, it's worth remembering, isn't it, that it's not just Damien Green who's left the cabinet over the course of the last couple of months. She also lost the Defence Secretary, Michael Fallon, and indeed Overseas Development Minister Priti Patel. So three have gone from the cabinet already. So if she changes another 6 tomorrow, that's sort of, over a third of the cabinet would have changed in a short space of time.
Yes, that's quite right, Nigel. But the received wisdom, and I think this also speaks to the fact that, the commentary on Theresa May's position has been wild, to say the least. Just before Christmas, just before that renegotiation, when it was all looking dicey with the DUP, she was on her last legs, so to speak. And then, of course, she secured that deal with Michel Barnier and Jean-Claude Juncker to bounce on, as I said, to move on to phase 2 trade talks. And suddenly she's immovable from number 10. But the feeling, generally, it's now considered that she's in it for the long haul, and if she can, secure some sort of deal, then that will, of course, that goes well for her. But the point is that because she's in that position of strength, she can now make the changes. But her position is not so strong that she could dare to tinker with the very top jobs.
And finally, Theo, sort of a lot of speculation that there won't be many middle-aged, middle-class white males advanced in this, that it's going to be the diversity reshuffle.
Yes, very much so. James Cleverly, as I said, he's from the black and ethnic minority community, so he ups that intake, so to speak. Women to look out for, people like Maria Caulfield has done very well on the backbenches. And Theresa May would want to be seen not to simply put in white middle class traditional Tory MP. She wants to make this a dynamic cabinet. She wants to look ahead, and also it's a chance for her, Nigel, to give some fresh talent a run at running a job or running a part of a department. And if she can do that, then she'll keep a good section of her backbenchers, as I say, I'm referring to the newer intakes, 2015, 2017, much happier, because they'll feel as if they have their cohort in key positions.
A busy day in Westminster for Theo Usherwood. We thank you for joining us this Sunday morning. Theo Usherwood, there, LBC's political editor, explaining that about 6 people are likely to lose their jobs. Well, the Tory party do have a problem. They believe they have an image problem. It's been leaked that their membership has now sunk to 70,000 people. It's incredible. When David Cameron became leader, there were 250,000. And if you go way back to the 1950s, about 3 million people were members of the Conservative Party. But I would suggest to Theresa May the problem that she has with membership, the problem that she has perhaps in the country, isn't so much that it's too posh and it's too old and it's too white, although that may be a problem. The real problem is no one knows what they actually stand for, because half the cabinet disagree with the other half of the cabinet. So the strategy that the Sunday Times have outlined is they think that they will try to lose the pale, male and stale image and to have a really new, diverse group that represents the country. Let's hope she doesn't make mistakes like appointing to people to positions like Lord Adonis, who, of course, was appointed by her to head a big government quango. I'm sure she won't. What's missing? What's wrong, you may ask me, about more women in the cabinet, more ethnic minorities? Do you know what never gets mentioned? Class. Never even gets talked about. And this, in some ways, is a bigger problem for the Labour Party than it is for the Conservative Party. Fascinating. If you go back to 1964, nearly 40% of Labour MPs would genuinely be classed as having working class backgrounds, having worked in manual labour in some way. That is now 7% and falling fast. And yes, sure, I know there are fewer people involved in manual labour, but who can doubt how middle class the Labour Party has become and how little of a look-in working class people get in these reshuffles. Also, I think the key to who she appoints should not be based on ethnic origin or sex. I think what she needs to find are people that are capable, find some people with real experience of the world, preferably 1 or 2 who've worked in the private sector, and get people who can communicate a message, because half of them come on these shows on LBC or they appear on the BBC on the telly and they're interviewed for a couple of minutes and you're left none the wiser at the end of it as to what their opinion really is. I think that's what she needs, and I believe that's far more important than picking people because X% of the population is this, that or the other. I think there's a danger that that becomes tokenism. Let me know what you think by calling 0345 6060 973. You can, of course, text to 84850 and you can tweet using the hashtag Farage and LBC at LBC. And we have a new caller from Tiverton in Devon, Jim. Good morning, Jim.
Good morning, Nigel. How are you?
So what do you want to see from the reshuffle tomorrow, Jim? I'm fine.
Well, you stole a bit of my thunder, Nigel.
Oh, sorry.
That's great. No, that's great because you gave me a very good lead-in, really, and thank you for that. I'd just like to see people who, one, have experience, for instance, in defence. Why don't we have an ex-military man in there? There's an idea. Call me a bottle specialist, but, you know...
I mean, Jim, come on. I mean, next you'll be making some ludicrous suggestion, like someone that's run a business should be in charge of, should be Chancellor of the Exchequer.
Well, funny old thing, yeah. Wouldn't that be a crazy idea, really? And in fact, let's take that apart. Let's assume that we might put people in that have experience, and that would be novel and perhaps advantageous. I'm a businessman myself, that would work. My CFO is an ex-finance guy. Funny old thing. Don't know why, but there you go. There's one thing. How about also, we put a couple of generic skills in there, like integrity, like humility, like having morals, so I don't have to sack you within 6 months, that actually care about the will of the people. Nigel, I actually was a Remainer at the beginning, and the more and more I saw the bullying that happened, I realised I need to look into this a lot more. I did have a number of export businesses, great, I still have, and I realised suddenly that I didn't really understand the country that I was looking at. And once I looked at the facts, and I decided I'd just look at facts, I realised that we were all being duped, and that's why eventually I supported the Brexit.
OK, well, that's kind of, Jim, that was kind of the previous hour's debate, but thank you for that. I mean, Jim...
No, but the point I wanted to make, Nigel, was, so let's have a few more ministers that are Brexit supporters, or support the will of the people, because that's what we need to do, and that will make us go into Brexit in a strong position, supported with each other, and supporting Theresa May, provided that she has that same name, and I'm not convinced she has.
Well, I'm pleased you've raised that. I deliberately kept it out of my little analysis a moment ago, but I've sort of joked on this show over the last few months, Jim, that what she needs to do is either sack all the Leavers or sack all the Remainers. Because, I mean, the spectacle we had last summer and last autumn of Boris Johnson and Philip Hammond contradicting each other on everything virtually every week just looked ridiculous. But, Jim, I agree with you. No more Lord Adonis's. You know, if she is the government that's going to deliver Brexit, she needs people that actually believe in it. And I think that is absolutely right. That is the political priority for this country. And if, as it looks, that Tony Blair is gradually beginning to coax the Labour Party towards a position where at the next election it will campaign for us to stay at least in the single market and customs union, then the Conservative Party had better work out what it is. And if it's not pro-Brexit, frankly, it won't be for anything. Jim, I thank you for your call, and some really novel ideas from Jim there. That people who've actually done stuff like been NHS doctors might have a go at running the health department. I'm sure most of you would agree with that. One of my constant criticisms of people in the European Parliament, and indeed here in London, is that so many people with very senior positions in public life in our country have never had a proper job in their lives. I'd like to see more of those people in British government, in ministerial positions and in the cabinet, and I guess tomorrow give Theresa May a great opportunity to do that. You're listening to the Sunday edition of the Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC. It's 11:15.
LBC Through Your Workday with James O'Brien from 10, followed by Sheila Fogarty at 1 p.m.
John Venables, one of the killers of James Bulger. The fact that he will be tried, we're told, in private, that made my stomach turn a little. Is justice being seen to be done when a man charged with crimes now is tried in private? And when he was 11, he was tried in a very public way and then very publicly identified.
Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
The Beau Concept Winter Design Sale is now on. Discover a world of cool contemporary furniture and coordinated home accessories with great savings across the store. And why not take advantage of our free interior design service to help you make the most of your space? Visit one of our 7 stores in London, Kingston or Guildford to make the most of great savings in our design sale. Beau Concept, contemporary Danish design since 1952. Visit beauconcept.com for store details.
Get in! Oh, yes! Woo-hoo! The sound of people finishing their tax return. If you're self-employed, QuickBooks helps you keep track of the tax you owe, so you can file it faster. Snap and store receipts, automatically sort expenses, and claim back every mile you can with auto mileage tracking. All in one place. Take the stress out of tax time. Search QuickBooks today. Taxes done. Woohoo!
Even if you only employ one person, you have to provide a workplace pension. It's the law. Get to know your responsibilities with help from the pensions regulator. Visit workplacepensions.gov.uk.
Save up to a cool £400 in the BT January sale. Get super fast Infinity with our Smart Hub, awarded Best Buy Router by Which. And get great deals on TV and mobile. But get your skates on. The BT January sale ends Wednesday the 31st. Search BT Broadband to join BT today.
Saving over 18 months with unlimited BT Infinity, BT TV Max and selected 6-gig handset deals with £5 monthly broadband discounts.
When your cold goes from bad to worse, what do you make? A hot honey and lemon drink? That won't cut it. Try Strong Stuff, Day and Night Nurse. Its 24-hour relief can knock out your worst symptoms, helping you to sleep well. Day and Night Nurse capsules, only available at the pharmacy counter.
Refers to having capsules for day and night for cold and flu relief. Always read the label.
Westway. It's here, the Westway Nissan January sale, with list price savings of up to 38% on a range of over 1,000 nearly new and used Nissans. Plus, there's up to £1,000 towards your deposit and up to 2 years free servicing, with representative 9.9% APR when you buy through Nissan Finance, subject to status. With up to £5,515 savings, the Westway Nissan January sale is way more than just a sale, so hurry. To find your nearest Westway, Google Westway Nissan today.
At
Homebase, we're all about great value to refresh your bathroom. Take away a complete bathroom, including bath, basin, pedestal, toilet and taps, for just £208. Homebase, always low prices.
What is your dream holiday? A safari in South Africa or a swim in Aruba? How about pancakes in the States or the fresh air of Vancouver? Whatever your choice, KLM gets you there. Book quickly though. KLM's dream deals end on Monday the 15th of January. Check out klm.com and take off.
This is LBC, the Nigel Farage Show. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Tweet at LBC using the hashtag Farage on LBC.
Tomorrow it's going to be the diversity reshuffle. That's what we're told. White, middle-class, middle-aged men in general to be booted out for people representing the ethnic communities and more women to be brought in. And you know what? If they're all competent, capable, have experience of the real world and are good at communicating their message, then I say fantastic. But it just depends. What are the key criteria? Are the key criteria how it looks or how competent everybody is? Because remember, David Cameron, back in the sort of 2005 to 7 period, tried to modernise the Tory party for the sake of modernisation. What good it did him. Bob from Sussex, very much agreeing with Jim, our previous caller before the break. Only about 8 people in the cabinet voted leave. This is the chance to even things up a bit on the most important negotiations faced by Britain at present. Select the best, but from leavers, please, Bob says. Well, I have to say that really, over the course of the last year, it has pretty much been 2-1 Remainers versus leavers in the cabinet. And the only one of those Remainers who clearly had changed his mind, and by the way, the Prime Minister, of course, when she's asked by Ian Dale on LBC whether she's changed her mind, won't answer the question. Jeremy Hunt, to be fair to him, you know, who at the moment is very embattled with the NHS crisis, but Jeremy Hunt said he had changed his mind since the referendum. He is literally the only one. Your messages flowing in. Jen says, giving people jobs because of their colour, not their competence, sounds like a recipe for great government. Very tongue-in-cheek. Pamela says, on Facebook, she should bring Jacob Rees-Mogg off the backbenches and give him a good cabinet post, especially as he's a confirmed Brexiteer. Yes, Pamela, and he's run a very successful business, which he's made a very great deal of money out of, and he can communicate a message. But I don't think he's going to get promoted tomorrow. Not because he's a 48-year-old white old Etonian. I think they're scared of him. He's really very bright. I don't think often leaders want very bright people around them. If Jacob Rees-Mogg does get promoted tomorrow, I would say it'd be a very good thing. I don't give it more than about a 10% chance. I hope I'm wrong. Elaine says it doesn't matter who she puts in. It's the civil service that run the country, so it makes no difference. Well, one of the criticisms of the Brexit negotiations and all the concessions that have been made is that indeed it's the civil service that have been leading all of this, and the Treasury and the Foreign Office hate the concept of Brexit. They did then, and they very much still do. Let's go to Uppingham, which I think is the capital of Rutland. Rob, is that right?
Yeah, it is. Yes, it is. Good morning.
Good morning from the capital of Britain's smallest county. How are you?
Yeah. Right, I'm just going to ask you to square a circle I'm going to throw in here for you.
Yeah.
I'm a black chap, yeah?
Yeah.
I was the deputy chair for UKIP alongside Marietta in the last elections.
Yeah.
Okay. No experience within politics. Did a reasonable job, I think. And it's on that basis that I think that at some stage, it's all right saying how the cabinet looks and its experience, etc. But at some stage, there's a lot of black people in the UK who haven't got a lot of experience. They never got a lot of experience because it's the same old, you know, you've got to have the experience. And if you haven't got the experience, sorry, you can't come in. So how do you square that circle?
Yeah, well, Rob, I take that point. Role models are, of course, vitally important. And one of the positive reasons for making sure that you have got people from different communities in public positions is that it may well inspire many young people to think, wow, he or she can do it, I've got a chance too. So I do, Rob, fully understand that. And I'm not against Theresa May taking a few risks here and there. But, Rob, let me put this back to you. You know, you were part of UKIP when I was leader, from the sounds of it, and
still am.
And still am, yeah. And you took on. I mean, I never, ever, as leader of UKIP, said, you know, I want us to have X% this or X% that.
No.
You know, I just said we want people who are good, honest people to come and help us. And do you know what happened, Rob? Is actually UKIP was an incredibly diverse party. However the media tried to portray us, you know, amongst the black community, Jewish community, we had Muslim candidates, we had gay candidates. I mean, but I've never believed, Rob, in positive discrimination. I've always worried about the impact of that, but I do understand. But I do understand the point. Unless some break through, there are no role models for others. I mean, how would you handle it?
How would I handle it? Well, I mean, I'm not very well educated, but you know, it's what's inside, and I've got the drive and determination. And as long as there's never a glass ceiling, you know, I'm pretty sure that that good people would rise to the top.
Yeah.
But currently there is a glass ceiling, I believe.
Okay, so you hope she does promote some BME people tomorrow, yeah?
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, take a leap of faith. I mean, not with this sort of like ticking boxes, etc. But you know, if she can clearly see that somebody who, you know, she can justify it. That, you know, yes, they haven't got the experience, but yes, they've got the drive and the determination. Yeah, go for it.
Well, do you know what, Rob? Somebody who is not very experienced politically, because he's pretty new to Parliament, though he had a term in the London Assembly before, is James Cleverly. I'd like to see James Cleverly promoted tomorrow, but not because he's black, but because I can see he's an excellent communicator who's got a real grip of the issues. And I think, so the priority is that someone like Cleverly has got the ability, he can do it, and the fact that he's black, I think you would see, Rob, as being a bonus, because it says to other black kids growing up in London, hey, he got to the top, so can I. Rob, I thank you for your call, your support, and for everything else. Kelly is a new caller from Lewisham. Good morning, Kelly.
Hi, Nigel. I just listened to your conversation, and I personally think that there's already a case for positive discrimination in the Cabinet. I just think that it comes directly from the Bullingdon Club. I don't think it should be the case that you should see ministers, 4, 5, 6 ministers, all from the same school, same university, all posted in one picture. So I understand that there is like they're calling this the diversity reshuffle, and I just think it shouldn't be phrased that way, rather than just stop discriminating against people that didn't go to Bullingdon, didn't go to Oxford, didn't go to Eton.
Yes, absolutely.
And then diversity would naturally happen anyway.
Kelly?
And that would include people from different classes as well. So I just think we shouldn't see it as a diversity hire. I think we shouldn't feed into the myth that somehow white people in this country are being stiffed and, you know, their representation's being taken away and you have to do it to tick boxes. If we see it as let's stop putting up the barriers that have stopped diversity in the first place, then it will just all happen naturally.
Kelly, I'm with you. I said that at the top of the hour. Completely missing from any of this is class and people from different backgrounds and perhaps different educational achievements. And I loathe the development of the career political class that we've seen on both sides of the political divide. Generally, you're right. A huge percentage of them go to the same schools, same universities, do the same degrees, become researchers age 22, MPs age 28, and there's too much of it, Kelly. It needs to be broken up. I thank you for your point and your call. And some quite personal messages coming in. If Boris keeps his job, Theresa May has failed before she began. Well, I'm sure for every one of you who thinks Boris should be kicked out, there's another who think he's doing a fantastic job. On Twitter, this diversity nonsense is ridiculous. Best person for the job, full stop. It should always be best person for the job. Positive discrimination is a dangerous path and a route to disaster, says Mitch. And I wonder, I've had no more feedback yet on my comments about Jacob Rees-Mogg, but my view is Rees-Mogg will not be promoted tomorrow. I could be wrong. Akhil is my next caller from Leicester. Good morning.
Good morning, Nigel. How you doing? Sorry, first-time caller.
Well, you're very welcome to the show, Akhil. Now, should she be promoting people on the basis of their ethnicity or their ability or both?
I'll come to that. I was just going to say, Nigel, I disagree with 95% of most of what you say, but I always enjoy listening to your show.
Well, thank you.
And I think that one of the issues that we have today is that most of us just want to surround ourselves with people who support our worldview. But anyway, to your question.
Yeah.
Nigel, I think you're being a bit mischievous on this issue.
Mischievous, me?
I understand why you and like your first caller, I think it was Jim, who gets so exercised by this issue. The implication, and where I say you're being mischievous, is that Theresa May, if she does appoint, take a more consideration in appointing more gender or ethnic diverse candidates. It's not the fact that it's colour or gender only. The implication you're making is that these people won't have competence.
No. Come on, that's not fair. That's not fair. I said that James Cleverly, I thought was an excellent communicator and a well-qualified person.
But then this is a non-starter, then, isn't it? This is not, if we accept that Theresa May will be appointing people of competence first and foremost, and that's the priority. First and foremost, they will all be competent. Then whether she decides to say, right, but she will lean towards people of colour or women is a non-issue. As long as we get the competent people...
Yes, no, I'm not going to disagree with you at all. It's just that the way this has been leaked and presented to the press, we want to end pale, male and stale. It's kind of being put out... Rather the way Cameron tried to do his modernisations a few years ago, they didn't work for the party. Akhil, I hope this time tomorrow you and I have no disagreement at all that actually some drab career politicians have been replaced by people with real experience of life, with the ability to communicate, who are very, very capable, and regardless of colour. And if that's the case, it's fine. I thank you for your call. Breaking news of an explosion at a subway station in Stockholm. Time to go to the news. It's now 11:30. We're joining Philip Chrysikos.
Yes, as reports are emerging of an explosion at a subway station in Stockholm. Swedish media says at least 2 people have been injured at Varbygard. Nigel will bring you more on this developing story as we get it on LBC. Major retailers have signed a voluntary pledge not to sell corrosive substances to under-18s. They include Co-op, B&Q and Tesco. Independent shops are being urged to join in as ministers say they want to make carrying such substances without good reason a crime. Theresa May says she will carry on as Prime Minister for as long as people want me to serve. The Prime Minister confirms she wants to lead the Conservatives into the next general election, saying, I'm not a quitter, I'm in this for the long term. LBC weather, dry and sunny, bitterly cold across the south, cloudier with rain over the Shetlands, a high of 6 degrees.
LBC travel in Hackney, the A10 Shoreditch High Street southbound has 2 lanes blocked at Bateman's Row because of an accident. Traffic's having to take it in turns to pass on the northbound side. In Leighton, it's heavy on the A104, Lea Bridge Road in both directions through the roadworks between the Old Bingo Hall traffic lights and Clapton. In central London, Oxford Street is closed in both directions at New Bond Street. That's because of an accident, so it's looking very slow. It's also very slow on the M4 going westbound out of London towards Junction 4 for the Heathrow Spur Road. The Heathrow Spur is also looking very slow towards the terminals. And on London Overground, there are replacement buses running between Hackney Downs and Chingford because of engineering works today. LBC Travel, I'm Dave Goff.
This is LBC.
We've travelled, been there, shared rum with the locals. That mountain was near impossible to climb, but we got to the top for sunrise. We've looked over the edge of the infinity pool into the valley below and floated above herds of elephants in a hot air balloon. We can tell you about it because we've travelled it. The Kuoni sale is now on, so pop into one of our beautiful stores for a down-to-earth chat. At Kuoni, our experience makes yours. At all protected.
Oak Furnitureland's up to 50% off winter sale is now on, and this weekend only we've amazing January extra savings. We have solid oak coffee tables from $199 and sideboards from only $299. Go online now to find a store near you. Oak Furnitureland's January extra savings must end Sunday.
Even if you only employ one person, you have to provide a workplace pension. It's the law. Get to know your responsibilities with help from the pensions regulator. Visit workplacepensions.gov.uk.
If you own a Swiss watch and it's time to sell it, speak to watches.co.uk. The whole process runs like clockwork. Rolex, Patek Philippe, Omega and more. It only takes a couple of ticks and we pay immediately. Or if you just fancy a change, we could take yours in part exchange. From time on your hands to money in your pocket, it couldn't be easier with watches.co.uk. The pre-owned Swiss watch specialist. Life, eh? 1 minute you're up, the next, well, don't even ask. If life's happened to you and it's affected your credit history, at Wheels for Sure, we don't think it should affect your credit in the here and now.
So, we could lease you a brand new car for 3 years. We accept 95% of applicants. Once we're happy you can afford the initial rental and monthly payments. And if your company pays a car allowance, we'll automatically accept you.
If you've got a checkered credit history, there is an alternative that will get you on the road and keep you there. Change your life today at wheelsforsure.com. Because when life happens, we're here for sure.
Wheels for Sure is FCA regulated. T's and C's apply.
At Wickes, our biggest ever kitchen and bathroom sale is on right now. Choose from over 45 stunning styles. Book your free design appointment at wicks.co.uk.
This is the sound of a Virgin holiday at Walt Disney World Resort, Florida. And this is the sound of it disappearing in our January sale. The Virgin Holiday Sale. It won't last forever, and save 10% this weekend. Hurry, ends Monday. Seize the holiday. Virgin Holidays. Sale now on at All Protected.
The Nigel Farage Show on LBC.
Tomorrow's the big day, the diversity reshuffle for Theresa May's cabinet. She is going to get rid of the pale, male and stale image of the party, and it's going to be more diverse and more reflective, apparently, of the society in which we live. I wonder how many people from working class backgrounds will get promoted. Very few, I would wager, and we will, over the course of the next half an hour and on, bring you any more news that we get about the reports via Swedish media of an explosion at a subway station in Stockholm. So, on what basis should this reshuffle be conducted? Should there be more Brexiteers? Should there be more working class people? Should people be picked purely on ability? Or actually, would it be a good thing for British society if a few more members of the BME community got cabinet promotion? David from Norwich is on the line on this subject. Good morning.
Good morning, Lord Farage. Happy New Year.
And to you.
It should have been Lord Farage.
Yeah, well, that is not going to happen in a hurry, but I would say about as much chance of that happening as Jacob Rees-Mogg getting promoted tomorrow, but we will see. So, what do you want? What would you like to see tomorrow?
I don't, to be perfectly honest with you, Nigel, I don't think that whatever changes Theresa makes to her cabinet is going to make any difference whatsoever. I mean, they are, in essence, they're the political elite. They will do what they want, what suits them best of all. And the everyday working class man, if you like, the silent majority, have got no say in this whatsoever. And that has been the case for years. I mean, look, I've said this before, but it is true. Look back to June the 23rd last year and what happened and who was the cause of it. UKIP won the referendum, and the politicians were so flabbergasted. What did they say? Listen, the British public are listening to them. We've got to get rid of them, which is what they did. You know, and I know there was a concerted effort, and they pretty well succeeded to say, done, finished, history. So they can carry on and do what they want, which is why now, Nigel, you know this, the British public in the main are really, really angry about our current political system.
Yeah, I think they're getting angrier. I would agree with that. I also think, David, most people are fairly disconnected from day-to-day politics. I was just thinking to myself a moment ago, Justine Greening gets sacked. Well, no one's ever heard of her anyway.
Well, exactly.
And she'll be replaced by someone no one's ever heard of. And when you actually look at surveys, David, it's amazing that you actually take, whether it's YouGov or whoever it is, they go out, they ask 1,000 people from a sort of cross-balance of the community. They show people photographs and say, can you name this person? They couldn't name 2/3 of the cabinet. They couldn't name... I mean, honestly, I think sometimes we get this impression that all these people are huge national figures, and the fact is, actually, Joe Public just about knows more than a handful of people in British politics. So David, my real analysis of tomorrow's reshuffle is I don't think, actually, it's going to make a huge difference.
I absolutely agree, but it would have made a lot of difference, for instance, if you'd have been there, because you knew the system in Brussels, and you could have stood up and fought for it.
Well, yeah, but I'm not quite their cup of tea, David. I thank you. I must move on to Steve from Romford. Steve, good morning.
Good morning, Nigel. And a belated Happy New Year to you.
And to you, dear boy. So, what do you want to see tomorrow? What great new initiative from our Prime Minister will inspire you?
As a white working class boy, I want to see Jacob Rees-Mogg installed into that cabinet. And I'd also like to see James Cleverly put in.
Yep.
And I would like to see Priti Patel brought back.
So,
because I think she's fantastic.
So you're white working class Essex man, right?
Yeah.
But you like older Tony and Jacob Rees-Mogg?
I think it's brilliant. I really do. He is such a brilliant man. I saw him on Question Time, and he absolutely just stole the show. He really was clever. And another thing I'd like to see happen, get rid of this political nonsense of BME. Black ethnic minorities, you're British. Whether you're not black British, you're not Chinese British, you're not Asian British, you are British. Regardless of your background, religion, ethnic minority, status, whatever, we are British. And I think
I agree,
once
Steve.
we start that, once we get that going, a lot of this racism and things like racism is caused a lot by political correctness. I really do believe that.
Do you know, Steve, I'm with you. Going back a year or two, my press officer came from a family of Indian origin, but he was born in this country, raised in this country. Raheem, his name was. And I remember after a Question Time we'd done in Canterbury, we found the only late-night curry house we could get in Canterbury. And, of course, I ordered the hottest thing that was on the menu and a large glass of something. And we were talking about curry and what it was like and what bit of India it might have come from. And he said, well, we in our community... I said, hang on, sorry, what are you saying? He said, well, we in our community... I said, what do you mean your community? I said, where were you born, Raheem? He said, well, London. What passport have you got? United Kingdom, British passport. I said, stop talking about we and start talking about us. And I think I made him think a bit there, Steve. Steve, we need more of that togetherness and less separation, don't we?
We certainly do. And one of the most ridiculous things you can ever hear is when people talk about, these sort of things, they go, African-American. They're born in America.
Yeah, the Americans have the Americans are very much about roots and where they're from, but I think they're still American and they still fly the American flag.
Absolutely.
So I would read that.
And I like to see the Union Jack be flied a lot more in this country as well.
Well, I think in parts of Essex where you live, Steve, there are plenty of Union Jacks and lots of crosses of St George's. I thank you for your call, and Jacob, I'm sure, loves the support you're giving him. Roy is a brand new caller to the show from Brookmans Park. Good morning.
Yes, good morning. Although I live in Leafy, Hertfordshire, I spent the first 30 years of my life in Finsbury Park.
Right.
I joined the Tory party in 1968.
Yep.
I fought against joining it, and from Margaret Thatcher, it's gone downhill. It no longer resonates or represents me or all of my colleagues, because I'm in my 80s. It just doesn't represent us anymore. I hear Michael Time come on, eating up with jealousy over Margaret Thatcher. I hear the Mayor of London keep on saying he's a British Muslim. We don't say that we're English Catholics or English Methodists. So what I'm saying, Nigel, is there is no one now that represents me or millions of us. Where do we go from here?
Well, right, it's very interesting. I said, when you joined the party in 1968, I mean, the party wasn't without its problems, because, of course, that was the year of the Rivers of Blood speech and Powell being sacked and divisions on the EEC. So it had its political problems and it had its internal arguments, but it did always, in the end, take a decision and go in one direction or the other. And I guess when you joined, it would have been well over 1 million members, and now we're told, sort of leak report tells us it's down to 70,000. I mean, let me turn this round the other way. What would you like to see the Conservative Party be, and therefore, by implication, tomorrow's reshuffle be all about?
Well, yes, look, let's appoint people on talent, but the last thing we want is a Conservative Diane Abbott, just because she's black. That's the last thing we want. We want people, and especially, what's that man's name? Cohen, I've heard him speak and spoke to him, the Conservative, I can't pronounce his name.
Kwasi Kwarteng you're thinking of?
Yeah, that's right. He's quite a talented man.
Oh, I tell you what, Roy, he is very, very bright, highly personable as well. Yeah.
So I want to see a government or ministers appointed on talent, regardless of age, ethnicity, or but what the Conservative Party still doesn't do, it doesn't represent the working class.
No, it doesn't. And Kwasi Kwarteng, who you just mentioned, I'm 99% sure that he went to Eton. So he would be quite a long... I'm just going to double check that now. No, Roy, I think where Mrs. Thatcher got her great victories from, and maintained a big, active, stable membership of the Tory party. And Roy, do you know what? I was one of them, because I joined in 1978, a few years after you. Where she scored with working-class Conservative votes, didn't she?
Absolutely. I mean, I was privileged to know Enoch Powell, one of the most misunderstood persons in the British cabinet. Do you know, I can remember one of the Tory, and don't even remember his name, remember him saying to me, you know, you're quite bright for a working-class boy.
Oh.
And I looked at him and I thought, I've got the measure of you immediately, mate.
God. Can you imagine if you said that to somebody from a black or ethnic minority background, you're quite bright, but for someone that comes from that community, what the response would be? It'd be absolutely... You'd be hung out to dry, Roy, for anyone that dared to suggest anything like that, and it should be the same for people from different backgrounds. I can confirm, Roy, that Kwasi Kwarteng did go to Eton and then on to Cambridge, though he was a King's Scholar at Eton, so you never know. It may well be that his parents did not have to pay the exorbitant fees. Roy, I thank you for your call, and Roy, you know, he may be in his 80s, but actually... One of the ways in which the Conservative Party completely failed under Cameron, you know, they didn't win a majority in 2010 against a Labour Party that had been in power for a long time, a Prime Minister in the shape of Gordon Brown, who just simply was not having a great or happy time. If ever there was a moment for the Tories to win a majority, it was in 2010. They didn't do it because David Cameron did not appeal to working-class Conservatives. Some of them voted UKIP, some of them stayed with Labour, some of them simply didn't bother to vote at all. You're listening to The Nigel Farage Show, here exclusively on LBC. It's 11:45 and time for a break.
This is LBC.
Feeling heavy-headed this morning? Sinus pain getting you down? Try our new Sudafed Sinus Pain Relief tablets. They get to work in just 15 minutes to ease sinus pressure and pain for up to 8 hours relief, so you can get on with your day. For a clear head, try our new Sudafed Sinus Pain Relief tablets. Always read the label. Available now in most supermarkets.
Divorce. It affects every part of your life. You, your family, your home, your finances. And if you're a man facing divorce, perhaps even one you don't want, the situation becomes even more complicated. It's at times like these that you need a professional you can trust. Cordell & Cordell is dedicated to helping men in matters relating to divorce. Call now on 0330 60 60 161 or visit cordell.co.uk, office in central London. A partner men can count on.
Hello, it's me, Dracula. Relax, I don't bite much. Unlike the cost of some broadband deals, that's why I switched to Sky Broadband Unlimited. It's monstrously good value. Just £18 a month for 12 months, including line rental, plus a $9.95 setup fee. Exclusively for new and existing Sky TV customers. It's totally unlimited, and they'll never slow you down, even at peak times. Well, you don't want anything to stop the flow when you're screaming. Streaming, do you? Search Sky Broadband. Sky. Believe in better. Sky Network areas and new broadband customers only. 12-month contract. Further terms apply.
Oak Furnitureland's up to 50% off winter sale is now on, and this weekend only we've amazing January extra savings. We have solid oak coffee tables from $199 and sideboards from only $299. Go online now to find a store near you. Oak Furnitureland's January extra savings must end Sunday.
You know the drill. Put your savings in the bank, earn interest, feel utterly underwhelmed. It's time to talk to Cufflink, the award-winning peer-to-peer company. They're not a bank, but are regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority. You lend your money with theirs onto property loans, and you can get up to 7.2% gross interest on the whole lot. Make the most of your savings with Cufflink. Visit lendingtogether.co.uk. Past returns are not necessarily a guide to future returns. Your capital is at risk.
The Nigel Farage Show on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
It's the big reshuffle tomorrow. It's out with Pale, Male and Stale. It's going to be a big new image for the Tory party that's going to revive their membership and their vote in the country. Well, that all depends who they pick, I guess, and whether they pick people on ability or simply on their backgrounds. If they do both, there'll be no complaints at all. Damien is a new caller from South Bermondsey. Good morning, Damien.
Hi, good morning, Nigel. How are you doing?
Fine. So what are you looking for from Mrs May tomorrow to inspire you?
Well, I mean, essentially, when it comes down to positive discrimination, as you've been talking about on the show, I'm not really a fan of positive discrimination, and I believe that the best person for the role should get the job. But I mean, I think the problem with that is that obviously through history we see that a lot of very well and able candidates from the ethnic minorities don't tend to be given the opportunities. So I guess it's a balancing act with regards to trying to get the best people for the role, but making sure that you have a government that represents the country and represents every group within the country.
Because it is important, isn't it, Damien, for whether it's the black community or whatever it may be, but it is important for role models to be out there, isn't it?
Of course. As you said, previously, it is necessary for kids growing up from different, backgrounds to be able to see, people in higher positions that can inspire them. But it is a problem when you have capable candidates who aren't given the opportunity to excel in those high positions.
So has Mrs May got a chance to put that right tomorrow?
There's always a chance. It just depends on whether or not she's willing to take that chance. So, I think that a government should reflect the country, and so it's whether or not she's willing to be bold enough to say, okay, well, there are people here who are capable, who may not ordinarily get the opportunity, but give them the opportunity to do the job.
Yeah, and lastly, Damien, tell me, you said you're against positive discrimination. Could you just explain exactly why?
No, I just believe that it can create more problems than it solves. But then again, it's a balancing act in trying to understand, how best to represent a whole group of people. So I'm just not a fan of putting someone in a role based on the colour of their skin.
No.
And I'm black myself, so. But if I was to be in a position, I'd rather be put in that position because I am good enough and I am better than all those who went for the position. But I think the problem is, I guess, positive discrimination comes into the limelight because you have people who are very, very capable who don't get given the opportunity. So obviously, people think of solutions in terms of, okay, how can we combat this? And then we have the whole positive.
Well, that's the bit we got. That's the bit we got to put right, isn't it? Rather than, as you say, positive discrimination, which can lead to a fair degree of resentment. Damien, great call. Thank you very much indeed. Nigel, the Conservative Party requires radical surgery to save it. However, wishy-washy, weak and wobbly May will probably only apply a sticking plaster to the patient, says Laura. Laura, I do agree with that. As I said at the start, I don't think this is as much to do with the age and the look of the Conservative Party. It's more to do with the fact that no one knows what it really stands for. It fights election after election, making promise after promise that don't get delivered. The country's voted Brexit. 2/3 of the cabinet's opposed to that. I think people need some sort of real direction from a political party to want to join it, and by implication to want to work for it, to want to stand for it, and indeed to want to vote for it. It's all part, I think, of the same phenomenon. Certainly my experience in UKIP was that if our membership was going up, our vote was going up as well. That's certainly what I saw. Michael is calling from Muswell Hill. Good morning, Michael.
Oh, hi, Nigel. I'd say I agree with what I think your position is, which is, the PM should be appointing the best person, the most talented people to her government, and not on the basis of colour or any other single issue. Therefore, I'm a bit surprised that you're saying we should have more Brexit MPs in government.
Well, Michael, that does appear to be a contradiction, doesn't it? That does appear to be a contradiction. That on the one hand, I've said go for ability, as opposed to background, and on the other, I've said they should sort of jump this hurdle of Euroscepticism. I think, Michael, the reason I'm saying that is because it does look to most people to be desperately confusing that a Remain Prime Minister and a Remain Cabinet is leading a Brexit process.
Look, Nigel, you either accept the principle that you appoint the best people to government, or you don't accept it. You're looking to stand in both camps at the moment. The reality is the Brexiteers are overrepresented in government because the vast majority of MPs are not Brexit supporters, and yet you've already said it's about a third of them. So you've already got more in there than is represented. So how can you ask for more and then at the same time say, "Oh, you shouldn't be appointing people on the basis"?
Well, the referendum, Michael, the referendum has not closed the gap between the people and the politicians, and you're certainly right about that because say the latest opinion polls showing 60% plus would vote Brexit tomorrow, and yet in Parliament it's probably only 20% of MPs who really support Brexit. So there is this great gulf between the people and the political class on this. And look, if you put me up against a wall, Michael, on this, I would say, of course, you must pick the most able people, and that is the key criteria. But I do think there's something very odd about a government committed to Brexit appointing people like Lord Adonis to run important quangos.
Yeah, I agree with that, but it's no more odd, Nigel, than the fact that the government appears to be primarily run by upper-class white men. That's far more odd. And I know racial inequality is not at the top of your list as opposed to Brexit, but actually, in terms of importance, that's just as important as Brexit.
No, of course it's important, and of course having a society that is integrated and where people feel they've got a fair chance, Michael, is vitally important. In fact, it's one of the reasons a lot of people from migrant communities voted Brexit, because they could see that actually uncontrolled immigration was dividing society rather than uniting it. Michael, I take your points. They are powerful ones. Ability is the most important thing. But Michael's point's a very good one, that actually Brexiteers are overrepresented because they've got a third of the cabinet compared to what's in Parliament. But that really isn't the answer. The answer is we need a politics at some point in the not too distant future that is closer to the way the country feels on a whole range of issues. David is calling from Bracknell. Good morning, David.
Yes, good morning, Nigel. Yes, not least adult training and such like. There's a complete disconnect with the political class in this country on how to skill youngsters up and
we don't
for the country.
David, don't
how are we going to go forward and how are we going to compete with the world we don't have a skilled workforce?
David, we don't need to. I don't know what you're talking about. We don't need to train people. We don't need to train nurses. We can get them all from the European Union. That's the argument I'm hearing every week from people in Westminster.
Why they're in the pickle they're in at the moment, isn't it? They just don't listen to ordinary people anymore. There's a disconnect between the people on the ground who can see what's happening and the people who appear to be running everything.
I agree. So, David, what would you like to see Theresa May doing tomorrow to try and put some of that right?
I'd like to see her reconnect with ordinary people working in various fields, such as adult training, asking them how to best approach this issue instead of bringing in private companies who haven't got a clue what they're doing. They need to reconnect the skills and the experience of people in the field of such things as adult training and get them involved.
And what kind?
All out to a private company.
And can you think? I think a lot of people would agree with that, David, from both sides of the left-right divide in politics too.
Yes, it's not the left-right.
No, absolutely. Yeah. But can you think, David? Name me a person that could be put into the cabinet tomorrow and that could start to make these sort of arguments.
It's quite difficult, isn't it?
It's very difficult. It's very difficult indeed, as Theresa May will find out tomorrow. Because whatever she does tomorrow, there'll be 2 or 3 days of headlines and comment about it, and then it'll disappear from view. And David, I reckon that in Bracknell, if you knocked on the door of all the neighbours in your street in a week's time and showed them the faces of 6 new cabinet ministers, how many, David, do you think would know who they were?
Well, very few. This is part of the disconnect, isn't it? I mean, it's I just can't believe the figures you gave out earlier, actually, about the Tory party, 70,000 members.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? Well, that is...
If there was a real enthusiasm for Tory policies, they should be having a membership of 3 or 4 million, not 70,000.
Peter Oborne wrote about this in the Daily Mail yesterday, and it was a leak from a guy called Stafford, who's been one of the big voluntary parts of the Conservative Party for years, and he's had pre-sight of their survey that they've conducted and count they've done. And when David Cameron was voted in as leader, and he won against David Davis, 250,000 ballot papers were issued around the country, and we knew during Cameron's years it had declined massively. And, you know, I guess it had declined because people didn't want wind farms that cost a fortune in their backyard, and they didn't feel gay marriage was a priority given that it hadn't been in the manifesto, and there's just too much modernisation, you know. That was how Conservative members felt. So I think the party has a massive problem. David, I thank you very much indeed. Well, as you know, I've got my bags all packed, and I should be heading off to Brussels this afternoon because I would not want to be late for meeting Michel Barnier tomorrow morning. And I thank all of you, the thousands of you, that got involved with hashtag Ask Barnier. The 3 questions I read out earlier will be put to him tomorrow. You've been listening to the Nigel Farage Show here on LBC. I'll be back tomorrow night at 7, reporting from Brussels. Coming up at 3 this afternoon, it's Alex Salmond. But up next, it's Majid Nawaz.
Thank you, Nigel. Coming up, victim support groups are calling on MPs to back a new law allowing police to inform people if their partner has previous convictions for domestic violence. Should women be told about their partner's abusive past? Before that, 4 young men were fatally stabbed over a 15-hour period on New Year's Eve in London. London's mayor has blamed national police cuts, but the Tories say this is happening under his watch. Is it time for politicians to stop playing the blame game and address this serious problem? But first, at least 21 people have been killed in Iran since protests broke out against the regime last month. Labour has said that it didn't want to leap to judgment. Why has Labour been so hesitant to criticise the Islamic Republic of Iran?
On FM, online, on your mobile and on digital radio. Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 12 o'clock, victims of acid attacks are welcoming a pledge by retailers to control the sale of corrosive substances. Wickes, Co-op and Wilko are among those saying they'll voluntarily ban their sale, including drain and patio cleaners and paint stripper to under 18s. Ministers are also looking at making carrying corrosive substances without good reason a crime, but former Chief Crown Prosecutor Nazir Afzal has told LBC more still needs to be done.
1 in 5 of the attacks are carried out by under 18s, so 4 in 5 are over 18s. They still will be able to obtain acid as they will. Yes, we need to legislate. People need to go to jail if they're in possession of this item. You need to work with the manufacturers. Thirdly, you've got to look at the online portals. You know how it is you can obtain this literally next day and do what you want with it.
Theresa May says she wants to lead the Conservatives into the next general election, saying, "I'm not a quitter, I'm in this for the long term." Expected in 2022, the Prime Minister says she will continue to serve in her role as long as people want me to. It's understood at least 2 people have been injured in an explosion at a subway station in Stockholm. Swedish media says it happened at Varbygard's subway station in the southwest of the city. It's believed the explosion happened when a 60-year-old man picked up an object. Police are not treating it as terror-related. Theresa May is abandoning her party's election manifesto pledge to give MPs a vote on overturning the fox hunting ban in England and Wales. The Prime Minister says she's received a clear message on the issue. Liverpool Lime Street Station has been forced to close for today and tomorrow. A structure which carries overhead wires has extensive corrosive damage and needs fixing urgently. Around 100 million people have shivered in the United States after temperatures fell, with a wind chill close to minus 73 degrees Celsius. Many have suffered illnesses, including heart attacks and frostbite, with the northeast of the states the hardest hit. Mount Washington is tied for second place as the coldest spot in the world. England assistant cricket coach Paul Farbrace believes that time is running out for James Vince to keep his place in the Test side. He's yet to score a century in his Test career and was out for 18 as they closed on 93 for 4 on the penultimate day of the final Ashes Test in Sydney. 210 runs from avoiding an innings defeat against Australia. Farbrace says Vince must deliver soon.
The what-ifs might be had he gone on and got 150 in the first innings in Brisbane rather than getting run out for 83. It might have been a completely different tour for him. But the blunt answer is that he knows he's got to score more runs if he's to have a long career with England in Test cricket.
LBC weather, dry and sunny this afternoon, cold across the south, cloudy with rain over the Shetlands, a high of 6 degrees. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Philip Chrysakos.
At British Gas, we have everything you need for when winter does its worst. Our home care boiler cover starts from just £12 a month. That's less than 40p a day and includes a yearly service. Plus, we're giving you up to £100 to treat yourself when you buy selected home care products online by the 28th of February. So why wait? Search British Gas Home Care. Terms and conditions apply.
LBC travel in Surrey. The M25 anti-clockwise is blocked between junction 7 for the M23 and junction 6 for Godstone because of an accident. So long queues are starting to build up. It's very slow in Waltham Forest on the North Circular eastbound. 2 lanes are blocked at Waterworks Corner because of an accident. In Hackney, the A10 Shoreditch High Street southbound has 2 lanes blocked at Bateman's Row. Traffic's taking it in turns to go past on the northbound side. In central London, Oxford Street is closed in both directions at New Bond Street because of an accident, so it's looking very slow there. And on the rails, Virgin Trains East Coast have delays and cancellations between Stevenage and King's Cross. That's because of power supply problems. LBC Travel, I'm Dave Garth.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Majid Nawaz.
Good afternoon, it's Majid Nawaz here for the regular weekend show. Every Saturday and every Sunday we're kicking you off today with a geopolitical conversation. Why has the Labour Party been so hesitant to criticise ongoing protests against what is essentially a theocratic and tyrannical regime in Iran? The people have been protesting in Iran since the 28th of December. These protests, by the way, though they may be not as large as the vast crowds of the now well-known Green Movement from 2009, but they are more widespread and, by all accounts, a lot angrier. Whereas the Green Movement in 2009 was protesting or calling for reform from within the theocratic regime, these protests are calling for an end to theocracy entirely and for the overthrow of the regime. And they were sparked pretty much by a spike in petrol prices by 50% and 40% increase in the price of eggs. So they began as economic grievances by the average everyday Iranian